I never thought a simple medical procedure would destroy everything I believed about my family and myself in Connecticut. My sister needed a liver transplant, and our parents immediately looked at me as the obvious donor for this life-saving surgery. The pressure felt overwhelming as Mom kept repeating her favorite phrase about family always coming first, no matter what. Dad quoted scriptures about sacrifice while I sat in our Victorian living room, surrounded by family photos that now felt heavy. The smell of Mom's apple pie couldn't mask the tension that filled every corner of our traditionally decorated home. Our Sunday dinners had become strategy sessions about medical procedures, insurance coverage, and surgical schedules ahead. I felt like I was drowning in expectations, but my altruistic nature made me want to help, despite growing doubts inside. Something about my sister's behavior seemed off, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what was bothering me so much. Working as a nurse at Hartford Hospital, I understood the medical risks better than most family members would in this situation. My 3 years of experience in the ICU taught me that liver transplants weren't simple procedures to take lightly or casually. The recovery would be long and painful, requiring months of careful monitoring and potential complications that scared me deeply. My boyfriend kept questioning my decision during family gatherings, creating uncomfortable scenes that embarrassed everyone present there. His pragmatic accountant mind couldn't understand why I felt obligated to sacrifice my health for someone else's medical emergency. The Irish Catholic traditions in our family made it impossible to say no without feeling guilty about abandoning core values. Every conversation felt loaded with unspoken expectations and cultural pressure that I had grown up accepting as normal behavior. I found myself lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling while questions swirled through my mind relentlessly. The need for approval from my parents battled constantly with my growing desire to understand my own authentic feelings. The first red flag appeared when my sister surprisingly rejected my initial offer to donate part of my liver immediately. She claimed she wanted to explore other medical options first, which confused our parents and created unexpected family tension. Her sudden reluctance seemed completely out of character for someone who had always been the family's golden child growing up. I noticed her whispering phone conversations that stopped abruptly whenever I entered the room during family visits to our house. Mom and Dad exchanged nervous glances whenever I asked direct questions about alternative treatments or second medical opinions available. The atmosphere in our house shifted dramatically, becoming charged with secrets that no one seemed willing to share with me. Our traditionally close family felt like strangers living under the same roof, pretending everything was perfectly normal and fine. I started paying closer attention to conversations, body language, and the way people avoided certain topics during dinner discussions. The feeling that something was fundamentally wrong grew stronger every day, despite my family's attempts to act normally. During the pre-operative medical testing at the hospital, I discovered that my blood type created compatibility issues with my sister. The doctors seemed genuinely confused by the unexpected biological incompatibility between two sisters who should theoretically match better medically. This revelation sent shockwaves through our family meeting, where everyone sat in uncomfortable silence for several long minutes. My parents looked panicked rather than surprised, which struck me as an unusual reaction to unexpected medical news like this. The medical team suggested additional genetic testing to understand why siblings would have such different biological markers and profiles. I volunteered immediately for comprehensive DNA analysis, hoping science could provide answers that my family seemed reluctant to give. The waiting period for test results felt eternal, filled with sleepless nights and growing anxiety about what we might discover. Our family dynamics became increasingly strained as we all pretended that everything was still normal and under control somehow. I couldn't shake the feeling that my parents knew more about this situation than they were willing to admit. My determination to help my sister intensified despite the medical complications, driving me to research every possible solution available. I spent countless hours reading medical journals, consulting with specialist doctors, and exploring alternative treatment options for her condition. The hospital corridors became my second home, as I advocated fiercely for comprehensive testing and innovative treatment approaches for her. My nursing background helped me navigate complex medical terminology and understand the intricacies of liver disease and transplant procedures. However, my family's strange behavior continued to puzzle me more than the medical challenges we were facing together. Evening conversations at home felt scripted and artificial, lacking the natural warmth that had always characterized our family relationships. I noticed how my parents changed the subject whenever I mentioned genetic testing or family medical history during meals. The beautiful fall weather in Connecticut provided a stark contrast to the dark clouds gathering over our family situation. My altruistic nature was being tested in ways I had never experienced before, challenging my core beliefs about duty. While cleaning the attic during a crisp October afternoon, I discovered a dusty box hidden behind old Christmas decorations carefully. The cardboard container held adoption papers that made my hands tremble as I read the legal documents with growing shock. My sister's name appeared on official forms dated 24 years ago, revealing a secret that had been hidden successfully. The papers indicated she had been adopted through a Catholic charity organization here in Hartford when she was just months. Reading those documents felt surreal, like discovering that our family's entire foundation had been built on carefully constructed lies. The musty smell of the attic mixed with my growing panic as I tried to process this earth-shattering information completely. I sat among dusty holiday decorations, surrounded by fake family memories, while holding proof that nothing was as it seemed. The autumn sunlight streaming through the small attic window illuminated pages that would change everything I understood about us. My hands shook as I photographed each document with my phone, creating evidence of the deception that had lasted decades. Confronting my parents about the adoption papers led to the most uncomfortable conversation we had ever shared as a family. They admitted reluctantly that my sister had been adopted, but insisted they had planned to tell us both eventually. Mom cried while explaining how they wanted to protect us from unnecessary emotional trauma during our childhood years together. Dad justified their decision by emphasizing how adoption had given my sister opportunities she wouldn't have had otherwise in life. Their explanations felt rehearsed and hollow, lacking the genuine emotion I expected from such a significant family. Revelation like this, the living room where we had shared countless happy memories, suddenly felt like a courtroom where I was prosecuting them. Our family photos lining the mantelpiece now seemed like evidence of an elaborate deception that had lasted my entire lifetime. The Persian rug beneath my feet felt unsteady as my understanding of reality shifted dramatically during that painful conversation. I realized that my need for parental approval had blinded me to obvious signs that something was fundamentally wrong. My search for truth intensified when I discovered that my sister had biological relatives living in nearby towns unexpectedly. Through online research and public records, I found a half-brother working at a sporting goods store just 30 miles away. Arranging to meet him felt like stepping into a parallel universe where different versions of our family story existed. The coffee shop where we met was decorated with autumn leaves, creating an ironically cozy atmosphere for such a heavy conversation. He had no idea that he had sisters living so close by, having grown up believing he was an only child. His shock matched mine as we compared family stories and tried to piece together our complicated biological connections carefully. The aroma of cinnamon and coffee couldn't mask the emotional intensity of discovering a brother I never knew existed at all. His genuine warmth and confusion about our situation helped me realize that I wasn't alone in feeling lost and betrayed. We exchanged contact information and promised to stay in touch while we both processed this overwhelming family revelation together. Winter arrived early that year, bringing unexpected visitors who would turn my world completely upside down once and for all. A couple appeared at our front door during a December snowstorm, claiming to be my biological parents searching for me. They explained how a hospital administrative error had led to babies being switched shortly after birth, 28 years ago. Their story seemed impossible, but they had documentation and photographs that supported their claims about the mix-up at Hartford. The warmth of our living room fireplace couldn't combat the chill that settled over our family gathering that evening. My adoptive parents looked guilty rather than surprised, suggesting they had known about this situation for much longer than expected. The Christmas decorations surrounding us created a surreal backdrop for revelations that would forever change our holiday traditions and memories. Snow continued falling outside, while my understanding of identity melted away completely inside our traditionally decorated Victorian home. That night, I found myself caught between two families, both claiming me as their daughter, while I struggled to understand the truth. The DNA test I ordered arrived during the coldest week of winter, promising scientific answers to emotional questions plaguing our family. I followed the simple instructions carefully, swabbing my cheek while praying for clarity about my true biological connections and heritage. The waiting period for results felt longer than the previous months of uncertainty and family drama we had already endured. During those weeks, I threw myself into nursing work at the hospital, finding comfort in helping other families. The familiar sounds and smells of the medical environment provided stability while my personal life remained in complete chaos. My colleagues noticed my distraction but respected my privacy when I couldn't explain the source of my obvious emotional distress. The Valentine's Day decorations appearing around the hospital felt mockingly cheerful compared to my family's current state of dysfunction. I counted down days until the test results would arrive, hoping science could provide truth that my family had failed. The anticipation was almost unbearable, but I knew that whatever the results showed, they would change my life forever. The DNA results arrived on a gray March morning, delivered in a simple envelope that contained the power to destroy everything. Opening those pages felt like defusing a bomb, knowing that the information inside would explode my understanding of family forever. The scientific data confirmed my worst fears. I shared no biological connection with the parents who had raised me. Every family tradition, every shared holiday memory, every moment of assumed genetic connection had been built on a lie. The paper trembled in my hands as I read and reread the conclusive evidence that I was not their biological daughter. My coffee grew cold on the kitchen counter while I processed the reality that 28 years of family bonds were illusions. The morning sunlight streaming through our kitchen window seemed different now, illuminating a truth that changed everything I believed. I felt like an actor who had been playing the wrong role my entire life without knowing the script. The familiar sounds of our house settling around me now felt foreign and unwelcoming after this devastating revelation. Even more shocking was the discovery that my sister was actually my biological first cousin, not my sister at all. The DNA analysis revealed complex family connections that explained the medical incompatibility we had discovered during testing procedures earlier. We had been switched at birth due to a hospital administrative error that had remained hidden for decades of our lives. The families involved had discovered the mistake years ago, but chose to maintain the deception to protect us both emotionally. Learning that my entire identity had been built on a medical error felt surreal and devastating, beyond words I possessed. The Victorian house where I had grown up suddenly felt like a museum of false memories and artificial family bonds. Spring was beginning to emerge outside, but I felt trapped in an emotional winter that seemed like it would last forever. The cherry blossoms, blooming in our front yard, mocked my internal landscape of confusion, grief, and anger about everything. I wondered how many other families were living similar lies, built on institutional mistakes that everyone agreed to ignore. The most incredible revelation came when I learned that my real biological sister had been living practically next door. She had grown up in a family I knew from church and community events, someone I had greeted politely countless times. We had sat in the same pews, during Sunday services, attended the same school fundraisers, and lived parallel lives unknowingly. The irony was almost too much to bear, knowing that we had been so close, yet completely unaware of our biological connection. When we finally met intentionally as sisters, the resemblance was unmistakable and emotionally overwhelming for both of us to handle. Our mannerisms, laugh patterns, and even the way we gestured while talking were remarkably similar, despite different upbringings entirely. The restaurant where we met for coffee felt charged with emotion as we compared childhood stories and family experiences. We discovered shared interests, similar personality traits, and an instant connection that felt both natural and devastatingly bittersweet given circumstances. The spring rain outside seemed to wash away the last vestiges of my old understanding of family and identity. Processing these revelations required months of careful emotional work and professional counseling to help me navigate the complex feelings involved. My relationship with my adoptive parents became strained as I struggled to forgive their years of deception and lies. They insisted they had acted out of love and protection, but their choices had robbed me of authentic connections with my biological family for decades. The anger I felt was complicated by genuine love for people who had raised me with care and intention. My boyfriend's earlier warnings about my tendency to sacrifice myself for family seemed prophetic and wise in retrospect now. The Irish Catholic guilt that had shaped my childhood now felt manipulative rather than meaningful or spiritually grounding for me. I began questioning every family tradition, every holiday celebration, and every shared memory that had defined my previous identity. Therapy sessions helped me understand that grieving the loss of my assumed identity was necessary and completely normal given circumstances. The process of rebuilding my sense of self felt overwhelming but also strangely liberating as truth replaced comfortable illusions. My biological family welcomed me with open arms, but integrating into their established dynamics proved challenging for everyone involved unexpectedly. They had their own traditions, inside jokes, and shared experiences that I had missed during my childhood with another family. Learning their family history felt like studying a foreign culture, even though we shared genetic connections and similar features. The summer months provided opportunities for barbecues, family gatherings, and getting to know you conversations that should have happened decades earlier in life. My biological parents expressed regret about the lost years while trying to build new relationships without overwhelming me emotionally, unnecessarily. We took things slowly, respecting the complexity of the situation and everyone's need to process these changes gradually over time. The warm Connecticut summer felt hopeful as we created new memories together while acknowledging the painful circumstances that brought us together. I found myself caught between two families, trying to honor relationships built on lies while embracing connections based on truth. The challenge was learning to love authentically, rather than out of obligation or guilt about family expectations and cultural pressures. The resolution of my sister's medical crisis came through my newly discovered biological brother, who proved to be a perfect match. His willingness to donate part of his liver demonstrated the kind of authentic family love I had been seeking unknowingly. The irony wasn't lost on me that the person I had tried desperately to save was ultimately saved by someone whose existence I had been unaware of for years. The successful transplant surgery took place during a beautiful August day, surrounded by both families working together for once. Watching my biological brother's generous sacrifice helped me understand what genuine family devotion looked like without coercion or cultural pressure. The hospital waiting room filled with people from both sides of my complicated family tree, creating an unusual support system. My nursing experience helped me advocate for both patients during their recovery, finding purpose in my professional skills again. The summer heat outside contrasted with the cool, sterile environment, where healing was taking place for multiple people simultaneously. I realized that sometimes the most important family members are the ones we choose, rather than the ones assigned to us. Building authentic relationships with my biological family required patience, honesty, and forgiveness on everyone's part during the adjustment period ahead. We established new traditions that honored both our shared genetics and our different life experiences, accumulated over nearly 3 decades. Sunday dinners became opportunities to share stories, compare childhood memories, and create new experiences together as an actual family unit. The autumn colors in Connecticut seemed more vibrant that year, reflecting the richness of emotions we were all processing together. My biological parents struggled with guilt about the years they had lost with me, while I worked through my own grief about missed opportunities for authentic connection earlier in life. We attended family therapy sessions together, learning healthy communication patterns that our complex situation definitely required for success moving forward. Holiday celebrations took on new meaning as we blended traditions from different families while creating entirely new ones together. The process wasn't always smooth, but it felt genuine in ways that my previous family relationships had never achieved. I discovered that real love doesn't require sacrifice of personal identity, but rather celebrates individual authenticity within family bonds. My relationship with my adoptive family evolved into something more honest, but necessarily distant than our previous artificial closeness had been. They remained important people in my life, but I could no longer pretend that blood doesn't matter when it comes to family connections and shared identity formation throughout childhood development years. The forgiveness process took time, but eventually I understood that they had made decisions based on their own fears and cultural limitations rather than malicious intent to deceive me personally throughout my childhood and young adult years. We established new boundaries that allowed for continued relationship while acknowledging the damage their deception had caused over decades of my life. Holiday visits became shorter and less emotionally charged as I focused my energy on building relationships based on truth, rather than obligation or guilt about family expectations that had shaped my previous people-pleasing personality traits significantly over time. The beautiful Connecticut landscape where I had grown up remained physically unchanged, but my emotional relationship with these familiar places transformed completely as I developed new associations and memories with my biological family members instead of adoptive ones. I learned that healing doesn't require forgetting the past, but rather reframing it within a context of truth and self-acceptance. My career as a nurse took on deeper meaning as I used my experience to help other families navigate medical crises and family dynamics that could tear relationships apart if not handled with care and professional guidance available through healthcare systems. The skills I had developed through my own family trauma translated directly into better patient advocacy and family counseling during difficult medical situations that required emotional intelligence as much as technical medical knowledge to handle effectively and compassionately for everyone involved. I specialized in working with families facing organ transplants, understanding personally the complex emotions and relationship dynamics that medical crises can reveal. My story became a source of inspiration for other patients and families dealing with similar revelations about adoption. and family secrets that had shaped their identities in unexpected ways throughout their lives and personal development over many years. The hospital where I worked became a place of healing, not just for patients, but for my own. Continued personal growth and professional development as someone who understood family trauma intimately through lived experience rather than just textbook knowledge. I found purpose in helping others navigate the intersection of medical care and family relationships during their most vulnerable moments. My own journey through deception, discovery, and healing gave me unique insights into the human capacity for resilience and growth. As spring arrived again, marking a full year since my world had been turned upside down, I reflected on how much I had grown and changed through this unexpected journey of family discovery and personal transformation that challenged everything I believed about myself. The cherry blossoms in my front yard bloomed again, but this time they represented renewal and authentic growth, rather than false beauty covering hidden truths about my family's foundation and my own identity within complicated relationship dynamics. Over many years, I had learned to trust my instincts, rather than constantly seeking approval from others, developing the authentic voice I had been searching for unknowingly throughout my adult life, until this crisis forced me to examine my motivations and desires honestly. My determination and altruistic nature remained intact, but they were now guided by self-awareness rather than people-pleasing behaviors that had characterized my previous approach to family relationships and personal decision-making processes throughout my 20s before this revelation changed everything. I had found my biological family, but more importantly, I had found myself within the chaos of competing loyalties and conflicting truths that had defined my existence for months during this difficult but ultimately transformative period of personal growth and family healing. The love I felt for both families was different now, more honest, more chosen, and more authentic than the obligatory affection that had characterized my previous understanding of family bonds and expectations that shaped my behavior patterns significantly over time. I realized that the most important transplant hadn't been medical, but emotional, replacing artificial family connections with genuine relationships based on truth.